the vast universe, where billions of galaxies spin like enormous wheels of time, there exists a being before whom even the supreme gods must bow their heads in reverence. People call him the absolute Superman, the guardian of all civilizations, the one who has stood at the boundary between life and death for over 10,000 years. He had no name from the beginning. Ancient civilizations bestowed upon him countless titles: the Savior, the Bearer of Light, the Final Judge. Yet not one of those names ever truly captured his essence. The absolute Superman is not merely a warrior of boundless power. He is the embodiment of collective will, a flame kindled from the faith of billions of lives scattered across the galaxies. Every fiber of his body contains the energy of a burning star. His eyes can see through space and time, witnessing past and future simultaneously. When he clenches his fist, the entire Milky Way trembles. When he cries out, that sound tears through the darkness of the cosmos, awakening civilizations that have slept for millions of years. Yet, despite carrying within himself such terrifying power, the heart of the absolute Superman still beats in the same rhythm as the smallest and most fragile lives. He loves all things. That is at once his greatest strength and the fatal weakness that no enemy has ever been able to touch. Until that fateful day, the first signs arrived quietly, almost imperceptibly. Stars at the edge of the Andromeda galaxy began to go out, not in the brilliant explosions of supernovae, but through a strange disappearance, as though they had never existed. The absolute Superman sensed it immediately. Each time a star faded, something small within him ached, like an invisible thread being severed. He traveled to the edge of Andromeda in the blink of an eye. What awaited him there was neither a natural catastrophe nor an invasion by some alien race. It was an entity that even the absolute Superman, across 10,000 years of existence, had never encountered: the Cosmic Destroyer. He had no fixed form. When the absolute Superman looked upon him, his eyes, capable of piercing every dimension of space, saw only an endless void, a black hole that could think, a nothingness with consciousness. He did not come from the world of matter or energy. He was the embodiment of negation, of the absolute nothing. I have been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Absolute Superman. The Destroyer's voice did not come from a mouth, nor did it travel through space. It resonated directly within the Superman's mind, like a memory long forgotten. You are the last entity standing in my way. When you fall, the entire universe will return to primordial nothingness. The absolute Superman clenched his fist. The light radiating from his body surged violently, driving back the surrounding darkness. What are you? Why do you wish to destroy everything? The Cosmic Destroyer did not answer directly. Instead, he raised one arm, something the absolute Superman could only describe as a streak of black cutting across reality, and pointed toward the extinguished stars. Do you know why I can erase them so easily? Because deep within, every living being carries the seed of nothingness. They are afraid, they despair, they hate, and I simply set that free. The battle began without any further warning. The Cosmic Destroyer lunged at the absolute Superman at a speed that transcended the very concept of physics. But the absolute Superman was no stranger to combat across dimensions of space and time. He evaded the first strike and countered with a punch carrying the energy of thousands of suns. That blow should have pierced every layer of defense, should have crushed any enemy. But when the Superman's fist made contact with the Destroyer, he felt as though he had punched through nothing. The tremendous energy he unleashed vanished, absorbed into the infinite void that was his enemy's body. You cannot destroy that which does not exist, the Cosmic Destroyer whispered, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the absolute Superman felt pain. An arm as black as ink pierced the energy armor protecting him and drove deep into his left shoulder. The sensation was not one of being cut or stabbed. It was the feeling of a part of his body suddenly ceasing to exist, as though it had never been there. The absolute Superman roared and retreated in an instant, putting millions of kilometers between them. He looked down at his shoulder. A portion of his body had been erased, leaving a perfectly spherical void. No blood, no wound, only nothing. It was the first time his immortal body had sustained real damage. Do you see now? The Cosmic Destroyer drew closer, slow and deliberate as a dark cloud swallowing the sky. Your absoluteness is nothing but an illusion. You were born from the faith and hope of small, fragile beings. But faith can be broken. Hope can be extinguished. And when that happens, you will become me. The absolute Superman did not let those words shake him. He had heard far too many threats across his immortal life. Rather than respond, he focused every ounce of his strength, connecting with the billions of lives watching this battle from across the galaxies. He felt their faith, their love, their hope, and transformed it all into power. The Superman's body blazed with a light the universe had never seen in all its history. The wound on his shoulder healed in an instant, filled again by the pure energy of collective belief. He surged toward the cosmic destroyer with a force 100 times greater than before, and this time, his fist truly made contact. A thunderous explosion reverberated across every dimension of space. The cosmic destroyer staggered back, and across his ink-black body a crack appeared, radiating light, the very light of the absolute Superman himself. Interesting, the cosmic destroyer said, and the absolute Superman could sense genuine fascination within that emotionless voice. You truly are worthy of the title Absolute, but that is precisely what will make your downfall, and all the sweeter. And then the cosmic destroyer vanished. He did not retreat, did not flee. He simply was no longer there. The absolute Superman swept the entire universe with every sense at his disposal, but found no trace of his enemy. He had truly dissolved into nothingness. Yet the absolute Superman knew the battle was not over. The instinct of a warrior who had lived 10,000 years told him the worst was yet to come. At the heart of the Milky Way, concealed within a dimension accessible only to the greatest of beings, stood the Temple of Light. This was not merely a work of architecture. It was the place connecting all lives that believed in the absolute Superman. Every prayer, every ray of hope, every tear of joy and sorrow converged here, forming an ocean of pure spiritual energy. And at the center of that temple lived those whom the absolute Superman loved most. They were not immortal warriors like him. They were pure souls, beings of light who had chosen to walk beside him through his 10,000-year journey. They were family, friends, the ones who had taught the absolute Superman what love and compassion truly meant. Elyon, the first companion, the being who had found the absolute Superman when he was still a mindless entity drifting through the cosmos. It was Elyon who had taught him how to feel, how to love, how to become a guardian rather than an instrument of destruction. Adia, the spiritual child the absolute Superman had rescued from a dying civilization. She possessed no supernatural power, no ability to fight. The only thing she had was a pure heart that always found the good, even in the darkest of souls. And hundreds of other souls, each with their own story, each with their own fate, yet all bound to the absolute Superman by the invisible thread of unconditional love. That was the cosmic destroyer's true target. The absolute Superman realized it too late. By the time he raced back to the Temple of Light, darkness had already begun to consume that sacred place. The walls of light were slowly turning gray, the streams of spiritual energy being corrupted by a dark emotion, despair. Elyon, Arya, the absolute Superman roared, shattering every spatial barrier to reach the inside of the temple. What he saw there made his immortal heart feel as though it had stopped. The cosmic destroyer stood at the center of the temple, but he was no longer a solitary entity. From his body, thousands of tendrils of shadow reached outward, coiling around each soul within the temple. Elyon hung suspended in the air, his body of light slowly being stained black. Arya was weeping, and her tears were no longer pure light, but drops of liquid as dark as ink. "You have arrived," the cosmic destroyer said, his voice now carrying a cruel mockery. "Right on time. I have prepared a special gift for you. Release them." The absolute Superman lunged forward, but a wall of darkness rose up to block him. It was not a physical barrier. It was a wall woven from the very fear and despair of the souls inside the temple. "You wish to save them?" The cosmic destroyer tightened one tendril, and Elyon screamed in agony, a sound that tore through the very depths of the absolute Superman's being. Then bear witness to the most brutal moment in your immortal life. What happened next unfolded with a cruel slowness, as though time itself wanted the absolute Superman to engrave every moment into his mind. The destroyer did not kill the souls immediately. He did something 1,000 times more brutal. He showed them the truth. He opened before each soul the dimensions of suffering, every battle the absolute Superman had ever fought, every life that had perished because of those battles, every civilization that had collapsed despite his efforts to protect it. "Do you see, Elyon?" the destroyer whispered into the old companion's ear. "The one you trusted, the one you devoted your entire existence to serving. He was never anything more than a machine of destruction. Every time he fought, even in the name of protection, innocent lives still had to die. He is the cause of all this suffering." Elyon looked at the absolute Superman, And in those eyes, slowly dimming of light, the absolute Superman saw something more terrifying than death itself: doubt. The friend who had believed in him for 10,000 years was now wavering. "Is that true?" Elyon whispered, his voice breaking apart. The absolute Superman wanted to cry out that it was truth distorted beyond recognition, that every death was a weight of pain he himself had to carry, that he had never once stopped suffering for the lives he could not save. But the words could not escape his throat. And then the most brutal moment arrived. The Destroyer did not personally kill the souls. He allowed them to destroy themselves. The seeds of doubt he had planted in their minds swiftly took root and grew into despair. And once despair had completely claimed a soul of light, there was only one outcome. They transformed themselves into darkness and dissolved into nothingness. Elyon was the first. The old companion's eyes closed, and when they opened again, they were entirely black. His body, once radiant with golden light, was now nothing more than a twisted shadow. He looked at the absolute Superman one final time and smiled, a smile more agonizing than any scream. "Thank you for everything," Elyon said, and then he was gone. Not dead, for death at least leaves behind a soul. He simply ceased to exist, erased from every dimension of space, every timeline, every memory, except the memory of the absolute Superman. No. The absolute Superman's cry shook the Temple of Light to its foundations. The walls cracked and fractured. The pillars of light collapsed. But he still could not break through the wall of despair the Destroyer had erected. Next came Arya. The girl looked at the absolute Superman with eyes drowning in black tears. "Why couldn't you save them?" she asked, her voice clear and gentle, yet carrying within it the sorrow of 1,000 worlds. "I always believed you were invincible, that you would always be able to protect everyone." "Arya, do not listen to him," the absolute Superman screamed, driving his fist into the wall of darkness until his knuckles began to come apart. "You are the light, you are hope, do not let him extinguish that." But his words could no longer reach her. Arya smiled, her final pure smile, before her small body became a pillar of darkness and dissolved into nothingness, one by one, soul by soul. Those the absolute Superman loved, the lives that had given him reason to fight, that had taught him the meaning of love and compassion, all of them fell, one after another, before the assault of despair, and the absolute Superman could only stand and watch, helpless, in agony, in despair. When the last soul vanished, the wall of darkness collapsed. The Destroyer stood there, amid the ruins of the Temple of Light, and regarded the absolute Superman with an expression of absolute satisfaction. "Now do you see?" he said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper, intimate as an old friend. "This is the moment I have been waiting for. The moment the absolute Superman, the embodiment of faith and hope, is drowned in despair, and when that happens, the absolute Superman did not hear the rest." He was on his knees amid the ruins, both hands clasped around the empty space where Arya had just stood. His body was trembling, something that had never once happened in 10,000 years. And then, from the deepest place within his immortal heart, an emotion he had never permitted himself to feel began to rise. Rage, pure rage, unmixed, uncontrolled. The energy around the absolute Superman shifted. The brilliant golden light that always surrounded him gradually turned deep red, then pitch black. His eyes, once two small stars, were now two black holes, swallowing every trace of light. The temperature inside the temple plummeted to absolute zero as all surrounding energy was drawn into his body. The Cosmic Destroyer took one step back, for the first time in the entire battle, showing caution. "What are you doing?" he asked. And for the first time in that emotionless voice there was a trace of unease. The absolute Superman rose to his feet. When he opened his mouth, the voice that came out no longer belonged to a guardian. It was the sound of a dying universe, of stars going dark, of galaxies collapsing. "You were right," he said, and every word rang out like a death sentence. "My absoluteness is an illusion. But you forgot one thing. When hope dies, when faith crumbles, when love disappears, what remains is not nothingness. It is a rage that nothing can stop." And then the absolute Superman attacked. But this was no longer the striking of a warrior. This was pure destruction. Every punch he threw tore through reality. Every cry he unleashed brought dimensions crashing down. He was no longer fighting to protect. He was fighting to destroy, to erase, to take revenge. The Cosmic Destroyer struggled to resist. He launched tendrils of darkness, attempting to erase the absolute Superman as he had done to the other souls. But this time, when his darkness made contact with the Superman's body, it was absorbed and vanished. The rage of the absolute Superman was greater than even the nothingness of the Destroyer. "Impossible," the Destroyer screamed, and it was the first time he had shown a genuine emotion, fear. "You cannot be stronger than me. I am nothingness. I am the end of all things." The absolute Superman did not answer. He only continued his assault, each blow aimed at erasing the Destroyer from existence. And the Destroyer began to come apart. Piece by piece, his darkness was torn away and consumed, revealing within it a void even more empty than nothingness itself. In the final moment, when the Destroyer was nothing more than a faint and fading shadow, he looked at the absolute Superman and smiled, the smile of one who knows he has won even in the moment of his defeat. "Do you think you have won?" he whispered, his voice faint but filled with a dark satisfaction. "Look at yourself, absolute Superman. You have become me. You are the new destroyer of this universe." And then he vanished entirely. The absolute Superman stood in silence amid the void, his breath coming in sharp and heavy pulls, something he had never needed before. He looked down at his hands. They no longer emitted any light. They were pitch black, identical to the hands of the destroyer. He raised one hand and touched his own face, and felt the cracks, the spreading voids expanding across it. He had become the very thing he had always fought to destroy. How much time had passed, no one could say. Perhaps a second, perhaps a million years. Time no longer held any meaning for the absolute Superman, now that he had become an entity of nothingness. He wandered through the ruins of the Temple of Light, through the civilizations that had once placed their faith in him, through the worlds he had once sworn to protect. Everywhere he passed, darkness spread, swallowing light and hope. He did not do it intentionally. It was simply his new nature. Prayers still reached his ears. Billions of lives across the universe were still calling out to the absolute Superman for salvation, unaware that their guardian had now become the greatest threat of all. And each prayer, rather than lending him strength, burned through his soul like hellfire. "Please, pray no more," he whispered, but no one heard. And then, in the darkest of moments, when the absolute Superman stood at the very edge of total annihilation, not only of his body, but of his soul, he heard a voice. It was not a prayer, it was a song, a small and fragile melody, nearly swallowed by the ocean of despair. Yet it persisted, note by note, like a tiny candle that refused to go out in the middle of a storm. The absolute Superman recognized that voice. It was Arya. The girl had sung this song for him long ago, when he had just pulled her from the ashes of her dying homeworld. A song about hope, about rebirth, about the light that always exists, even in the deepest darkness. But Arya was gone. She had dissolved into nothingness. How could her voice still be ringing out? The absolute Superman focused every sense he had, senses now shrouded in darkness, and searched for the source of the sound. And he found it, not outside himself, not from anywhere in the universe. It came from within him, from the last remaining fragments of the Temple of Light, from the memories of those he had loved, from his own heart that had ceased to beat. Arya, Elyon, and all the souls who had been lost, they had never truly left him. They had lived on inside his memories, inside his love, and even the most terrible rage could not erase that. And for the first time since witnessing that brutal scene, the absolute Superman wept. The tears were not the black liquid of despair, but pure light. The light of remorse, of love, of hope being reborn. "You are still here," he whispered, and in that moment, something miraculous happened. From those tears of light, new seeds of life began to take root. Not the resurrection of those who had been lost, for that was impossible even for the absolute Superman, but the birth of new souls, kindled from his own love and memory. The Temple of Light began to be rebuilt, not from cosmic energy, but from the absolute Superman's own shattered heart. Every brick was a memory, every pillar a lesson learned, every wall a vow that despair would never be allowed to win again. The darkness on the absolute Superman's body did not vanish entirely. It became a part of him, like scars that bore witness to what had been lost. But now, it was no longer the darkness of destruction. It was the darkness of understanding, because he had learned something essential. Light cannot exist without darkness, hope cannot hold meaning without despair, and love is only truly precious when we know that one day it may be taken from us. The absolute Superman rose, no longer an unfeeling guardian, no longer a destroyer consumed by rage. He was a being who had passed through both extremes and found the balance between them. His strength no longer came from the blind faith of others, but from his own acceptance and understanding of himself. He looked out across the vast universe, where billions of lives were still going on, completely unaware that they had just been spared a catastrophe that could have erased all existence. And he smiled, the first smile of a new absolute Superman, one who had learned that true absoluteness does not lie in never falling, but in the ability to rise after having fallen. Farewell, Elion. Farewell, Arya. Farewell, all my dear companions. He whispered into the void. Thank you for teaching me the meaning of love, and thank you for giving me the strength to carry on, even now that you are no longer here. And then the absolute Superman spread his wings, one side now light and the other dark, and flew out into the universe. Not to fight, not to protect, but to live, to love, to continue the journey of a being who had learned that even the absolute can be broken, and that this is not where the story ends. It is only a new beginning. On the most distant planet in the galaxy, a young girl looked up at the night sky and saw a strange shooting star, half light and half dark, passing overhead. She smiled without knowing why, and whispered a quiet prayer. And somewhere out there, the absolute Superman smiled in return, because he knew that in the end, after all the suffering and loss, after the most brutal moment his life had ever known, he was still the guardian of this universe. Not because he was undefeatable, but because he had learned how to rise after defeat. And that was the true absolute strength. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so very much.